Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though.
Of course.
Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
I lie, thankfully she doesn't notice. Although if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it, but I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah blah.
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hana?
Oh yeah. The name rings a bell, though at the moment I can't really recall when or where I've heard it recently. There must be nothing. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing it to the memory. There are a lot of Hannahs. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
Hana.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to another openly say those words to them. The same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as a family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mom and Da are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away from some meeting or symposium, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sometimes for months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I like to think that's how I've become independent at such an early age. They've always praised me for that. At times, I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hana. Hana Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But, they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
Of course.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around.
Damn.
I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there is one thing I hate hearing, is that disappointed note in Mom's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule. It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties.
I don't know.
But I'll see what I can do. If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hana for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her our number or something.
I will.
But you know, the two of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too, I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked for a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written it on about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. And as it is, the only few people I clearly remember from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy. To some extent. Mom must have sensed my confusion because she laughed.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really, it felt like having two daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then, a hearty one, tender, and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago. When life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our mind. If given the chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. It do be like that sometimes. That's why I don't like talking on the phone a whole lot. With a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit, it's never a good example to set. So with another sigh, I put everything at the back of mind, and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. 15 minutes later, I head back out, dressed for the day, and my car keys at hand. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's no need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet and everyone keeps to themselves. No useless platitudes in the morning. No need to wear a smile on your face, lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays in Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop, and a frown gradually forms in my face.
She hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It happens in the dearest circumstances, though the last part of that might be a bit of exaggeration. However, with what's happened in the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off. And for someone like Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. I mean, I can kind of see that. I mean, there's the problem with people getting attached to people is that you can become emotionally dependent to them, and because of that, and because you die, because of that, if they pass away, you your emotions are just gonna be distraught. With Zachary, Ashton, and I, that has been the case. That has been the case. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot, despite her training being brief. I've given her the space last night, indifference, but perhaps today might be the proper time to check on her.
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly, so I don't disturb her, just in case she's sleeping, and has merely left the telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen, ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today? Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then I'm fishing out a copy of her key from her bag, unlocking the door. She lent it years ago after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning it up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could have always knocked, but she never did bother taking them from me. Always returning it or turning away from the conversation we have. The conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I've simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Without waiting for her answer, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Her unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, paper strewn about everywhere, and an unkempt bed among other things. This is much given. This is a given. This must be a given. This much is a given. Will always be a given. I've been here several times already, and I still wonder how can she just function like a human being with a place in this state. However, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it's certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual, but she never ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. It doesn't help that her bedroom almost appears unused this morning. Another habit, and it can only mean she hasn't been here since last night. Perhaps even since the morning after Miss Cooper's death. Either idea doesn't sit well with me. What with the news we've been hearing lately?
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims.
Oh shit. So there's more. So Rose wasn't the only one? Aside from the dude that got set on fire.
Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death. Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Damn. Gathering my wits, I immediately called. I immediately placed a call to her mobile. It rings for a good moment, but the sound of comfort in itself. But another minute rolls without her answering. Well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking. Sudden bouts of temper maybe, but never panic, despite how I may sound when speaking. And when it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail, a sigh is the only thing I let out. The pause doesn't last though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number. I find first and dial. Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it, despite how much they give each other grief. That says a lot about him. There's Zachary around this hour. He's probably still sleeping if he has freelance work. It's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person I want to bother, if anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon a click from Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never grew fond of mornings. He never did grew fond of mornings.
Becca? Christ, what time is it? What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Good one. Did you call us early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
No, Ash, hold on. This is important.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick. I've still got a few hours before the chief bothers me.
Sorry, I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that... Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Did I say that? Shit. Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning, so there's that. About what?
No, will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone.
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy hitting a hard surface and a string of rather colorful curses from him. The moment might have been one of those many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly the next days. If things aren't the way they are. When he picks up again, there's no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
I'm not!
You are. Breathe. One person's not going to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
All right, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
He ends the call before I can utter a single word of protest. But for the first time since entering this room, the tension is gone from my shoulders, and my breath has eased. The bed creaks as I sink down on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news, and I'm surrounded by clutter. All the same, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging at me. I'll have to apologize to Zachary later for sending me Ashton his way this early, but for now, relying on the latter, for this isn't the wrong choice. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, like his promises. True to his word, he calls back only a few minutes after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She could have at least sent a message last night.
What are you, her mother?
It's one thing to hear that from Isabella. It's one thing to hear that from Isabella, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time. Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know.
Says the person who keeps calling her Scaredy Cat.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put it in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this. I'll check on her. I'll bring her home.
It sounds like a lie. If I ever heard one. The sort where he omits things where so people won't fret. And I'm not sure whether I should be happy he cares that much to do that. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? He knows I'm capable of at least hearing out the truth without it gnawing at me for the rest of the day. He knows me better than that. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this. But despite after all the trouble he went through with how things are moving at the moment, the only one thought occurs to me. I'm just gonna save because alright. Relationship. Ah, crap.
Isabella!
There we go. I recognize his concern for what it is. It's not new for him to go out of his way for us, and to be honest, this is what I love about him. As much as I would love to hear, as much as I would love to take this off his hands, it'll be selfish. It'll only be selfish for me to insist, considering he knows of my other commitments. To do so feels like I'll be trampling on that kindness he seldom offers to anyone.
Sorry for putting you up to this.
Nah, don't mention it. You've got other things you need to worry about. Take care of those first. This is a small thing.
I still owe you one.
Oh, I can name a few things you can do about that. You know, there's this ice cream shop that opened near the movie house. I could use.
Okay, let's stop right there. That's enough. On second thought, maybe I'll just think about it some other time.
Harsh.
We both laughed. The sound lighter, more comfortable. Like the old days when a wayward 26-year-old is at the bottom of the list we need to worry about. This is how we find a common ground. We may not agree on a lot of things. We may see things the way the other does. But the give and take is something we've learned to get used to over the years. Whenever it's like this, confidence in him is the last thing I can offer as thanks.
Really? Thanks for this, Ash.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise. I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
I admit the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that. For so many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he simply laid them out all in the open. Because like this, I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other parts. If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end, all I can do is wait, go about my day and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. For now, my concerns are best left here. The rest of the day slips away like a blur. Despite my best efforts in keeping this morning's events from surfing in my mind, it sticks. In a way, everything today simply feels like a reminder. Every conversation, regardless of how casual, every topic, no matter how mundane it seems. I blame the news entirely for this. Recent happenings brought quite a few interesting stories to everyone's attention, mostly superstitious talk of death. And when locals talk about death here, anyone can sure as hell count on someone bringing up that mansion Isabella sold not a few weeks ago. Even my own students won't stop yapping about it. I think it's even worse than when it was back up in the market. Now there are more stories. If this is the world reminding me of what matters, or simply because the atmosphere around this time of the year calls for it, I'd rather take the latter. At least then, I can be sure people will forget about it in favor of another set of holidays after. Nevertheless, and this may be a painful thing to admit, but listening to them is a pleasant distraction while waiting for Ashton's call. I hope he doesn't forget the school days about to end soon.
No, that's got nothing with what I heard.
You always hear stuff. I'm not sure.
No, really. Rowan knows about it. He used to be in the same class with them.
I can hear you from back here, you know.
Whatever, Rowan. Anyway, the story goes like this. There were 3 of them. They entered the mansion on a dare, and they were all never seen again. No one knows what happened to them. Up to this day. Scary shit, man.
Cock and bull story. Calling it now.
No, you don't get it. Why don't you ask Miss Gales then? Better yet, why don't you go inside the place? I'm betting my allowance you can't do it.
The talk immediately halts when I look up. All of them suddenly pretending to be engrossed in their current activity. Still, a word to a stopper to this nonsense is needed. Creativity and imagination fostered by these stories is one thing, but reckless ideas should be corrected before anything potentially tragic comes forth from
Back
it.
to your worksheets, everyone. And I don't want to hear any talk of dares or going inside that mansion. It's private property now.
Right?
You'd all better stay away from it before...
Oh shit. At the noise, the whole lot of them go silent. You can almost hear a pin drop. The look on their faces would have made for a funny picture, but that's irrelevant at the moment. If that is a student loitering around, someone's going to be in trouble.
I'll be back. If you're done, you can leave your worksheets on my desk. keep the noise to a minimum while I'm gone, okay?
I can sense their eyes on me as I walk out the door. A muted kind of anticipation. A bit unnerving, but it's far more agreeable than the feeling of being watched I've been enduring these past few days. The class is still in session for most of the rooms. In a few hours, once the final bell rings, however, this place will again be filled with busy chatter and footfalls, an everyday cycle in itself. But for the moment, I let the silence guide me, my ears focusing on whatever sounds there are or there will be, searching for that distinct clanging of metal. A good minute passes, and for a portion of it, my steps echo through the halls, and another. I'm about to turn around when the sound of it halts my footsteps. It's a little muffled and infrequent, but it grows louder after each interval. With the hallway devoid of people, if I don't put a stop to it soon, it'll start to disturb the other classes still going on. Looking for it doesn't take long. All I can do is follow the racket, and shortly I'm standing in front of the nondescript row of unoccupied lockers. All of them inside, and from inside one of them, sitting in the middle, comes a noise. The noise, unknowingly destructive now that I'm facing it. Like someone's pounding on the metal door from inside, hoping to get out. Leaning forward, I try to get a glimpse through the horizontal slates of whatever's causing it. But in this light, only darkness greets me and another round of clanging, louder than previous ones, more desperate. I've heard stories before from other schools, from a few colleagues who had to deal with it once or twice. Although personally, I've never encountered one myself. I can only thank the heavens I haven't yet, but
If this is another kid some other student stuffed in a locker.
with a huff, I straightened up and studied it briefly with a frown. Without delay, I reached for its handle, and once it stops, but replaced with a muffled sound of a mobile phone ringing. I give the door a few raps before taking my attention away. A second, another. When nothing or no one responds, I avert my eyes and pull out my mobile. Ashton's voice greets me from the other end of the line, oddly cheerful in light of this morning's matter. Or maybe because I'm expecting some grave or serious news from him. Instead, I get this.
Hey, Becca.
Well, you sound happy.
I do? My voice still sounds the same to me.
There are only two things I know that could be the reason for that tone. Sweet, or he's gotten a good lead in this case. From the sound of it, I'm going to assume that it's the former, since lately that case is all that's running inside his head. And if there's a third one, I'll never hear from it yet. It can only be one of the two.
Ignore that. How's Isabella?
Already home. Sorry I didn't get to call you earlier. I had to head to the precinct after.
That's all right. Is she okay now?
I'm not really sure. She didn't say anything to Zach, but she mentioned a plan to take a few days off from work. It was a passing comment before I left her, so I didn't get to ask.
Must be because of Rose's death.
Could be. It doesn't seem like it from Zach's story, though. He said she was shaking when she got there.
Shaking?
Yeah. The word triggers a memory. From 3 days ago, on my way home from her little treat after she sold the mansion, I didn't think much of it at the time, but I won't lie, it scared me. The terrified look on her face, how she sounded when she suddenly screamed.
Becca? Still there?
Yeah, I just remembered something. Sorry, don't mind me.
Look, if you can talk to her, get the story out of her. That would be great. She wouldn't talk to Zach or me even when I tried. Maybe she'll speak up if it's you.
I'll give it a go, but I can't promise anything, okay? You know how stubborn she can get. But thanks for letting me know about this. If you want, I can get you that ice cream thing you mentioned tonight. As thanks. Just as thanks for all the trouble I've caused today.
Believe me, I'd love to take you up on that offer, but I've got something on my schedule this evening. Maybe some other time? Thanks a lot, Becca.
There's a short pause before he cuts the call from his end, and once again I'm alone with my thoughts. But rather than answers, all I got from it are questions, more of them, on top of that, and on one top of the other, as if the world isn't planning to give me a break anytime soon. But that's a problem I'll tackle later. Right now I've got students who need to be taught follies of eavesdropping if the slightly open door from their smothered laughter from inside is an indication.
All right, enough eavesdropping. All of you, back to your seats.
Is that your boyfriend, Miss Gales? Okay.
None of your business.
He totally is. A quick scuffle follows that comment. If there's a retort repaired at the tip of my tongue, I drop every pretense of letting it loose on them. There's no use arguing with teenagers sometimes, boisterous as they all are. They're still my kids though. Rough around the edges, maybe, but still my kids. Shaking my head, I head back to my classroom with a smile, but not before taking a glance at the locker again. It hasn't made a sound since.
Oh, must be the wind.
So, without another look, I leave it alone. What the fuck? Okay then. Okay then. All in all, the entire school day ends with a hitch. It could have gone better, mind you, but with all the exams, but with the exams nearing getting out of work before the sun has set, looks as though it's far off dream for now. At least until they're over. Then we'll have the holidays to look forward to. There really are times when you simply take what you can get for the time being.
Nothing wrong with that.
All I'm hoping for is this will continue until the whole day ends. There's still the promise I made to Ashton, and frankly, the idea alone doesn't sound good. If Isabella didn't talk to him, what makes you think she'll talk to me? It's not like there's a hierarchy, is there? Just because I can handle Isabella's childish tendencies doesn't mean I can do it all the time.
Really, those two give me too much credit.
Nevertheless, I keep my fingers crossed only because I'm also worried about her, and both Zachary and Ashton deem it important that somebody get the story out of her. Here's to hoping it's got nothing to do with that letter again. I understand if she feels a bit stressed lately, but keeping that story going on for more than a week is, it's bound to get tiring at one point.